difference between good and evil is that the Ten Boom family knew that Nazi Germany was incorrect morally, and that the Jews were not to be eradicated, and that we need the moral.
Well, then we'd want to ask the question: what did the Ten Boom family mean by "we know that they are incorrect"? Like just factually incorrect, that there's no such thing as the Aryan race? I mean, that could be all you need, and then you could just by using your rational mind conclude that this idea of this ethnic cleansing and all this other horrible stuff. If it's rooted in a contradiction, then it can't be true. Therefore, it can't be justified. But then also, if the thing about it that's just morally disgusting is the indiscriminate killing, then we could look at why do humans think that indiscriminate killing is bad, and then that could all be rooted just in a type of biological realism about the nature of human. You could say human cognition, or you could just call it human behavior.
Well, so a moment ago, I heard you pose the question like, well, why? Why did the Ten Booms? Where did that come from? And my posit is that came from God. That came from the teachings of that God.
But this God has commanded all kinds of genocides. And I mean, the Ten Booms, I don't know if they were, I don't know anything about them. I've never heard about them before. Maybe they were Protestants. Well, that would be really awkward because Martin Luther was, he could definitely have been Hitler's mentor, because Martin Luther advocated for stealing all the homes and properties of Jews and kicking them out of, I don't know if it was Germany or wherever he lived at the time, but Martin Luther could have written Mein Kampf. He said that they worship a false god. His argument was that the God of the Old Testament isn't even the same God of Christianity, and all this horrible stuff. So,
I mean, I've heard about the anti-Semitism of Martin Luther, but like, I would consider myself a Protestant, but not because I think Martin Luther is the best role model, or like.
I know. I'm not saying Protestantism is anti-Semitism or anything like that, but it's not like you can't.
Look up the so go ahead to add to your own education. The Ten Boom family, Corrie Ten Boom, and her father was like a clockmaker, and World War II German. I think they were Dutch. I think this was. I don't think this was in actual Germany. Actually, I think this was in a different country. But it's an example of like, hey, listen, there are so many significant reasons for a non-naturalistic, non-self-preservation of people who go out of their way to rescue. Put themselves in harm's way because they have a self-preservation kind of point of view.
But people jump into rivers to save children, which can kill them, but it can be explained biologically or like through evolution, because if you sacrifice your life to save your child, then your genes still get passed on.
The propagation of the species. That's fine. That's fair. But sorry, maybe I lost the train of thought of. Yeah, I apologize. I lost the.
That's fine. I just don't understand how thinking it's wrong to go around rounding up people and sending them to Auschwitz. I don't understand why thinking that's wrong makes more sense if God exists than if God doesn't exist.
So that brings it back to the origin, like the origin of how human people, majority of humans, originally got onto this concept of where did the difference between good and evil came from, and I'm saying to you that it was not through naturalistic processes or only biological figuring out survival of the fittest and trial and error.
Well, I don't think that humans were ever meta aware of it, but I think that that is what shaped human behavior. Like raccoons wash their food, but they don't know germs exist. But you don't have to know it for it to be selectively advantageous. And again, the Bible reads like a book written by very imperfect people who didn't think that people outside their group were worth much of anything except as kindling and property, and sometimes trade partners as well.
Right.
Which makes sense biologically. If it was written by very imperfect people with some pretty severe limitations, you would see that. But because we are also fundamentally a cooperative social species, there's also some niceties in the Bible.
Can you remind me? Can I just switch gears briefly, because the last, two guests you let on ago was a group of sounded like multiple people. They were trying to. Yeah, that was a hoot. I got some good laughs.
It was pretty fun. Yeah,
that was wild. That was a wild ride. And I was listening to these guys. I'm like, I know what they're trying to say, and they're just so close, but so stupidly expressing it, and it embarrasses me to be like, no, I know what they're trying to say. They're just saying it so incorrectly. So, I'm trying to rack my brain about the last couple points that you were talking about, because I took issue with what you said, but I also took issue with how that group of people were saying it.
Well, we were talking about where goodness comes from, and they said it comes from God. And I said, then if God told you to do something, then would it be good?
So I'll get roasted alive for this point of view, and canceled and whatever. But here's the thing: if there, God is the quantum reference point.
What the hell does that mean?
So quantum reference point. So like the intrinsic base reference point of all of the cosmos for what is the standard of goodness. So like if God says red is blue, then it's going to be that. And like if God says a certain way and a certain standard of things is good, then like reality will change to become that way. So
look, if you want to believe that, that's fine, but you don't get to at the same time claim that this is objective. Like I am a moral relativist, and being a moral relativist doesn't mean that you have to accept what everybody says as being equally morally good. I can condemn all kinds of things. It's just the recognition and the acceptance that other people will have different ideas about what they think is good or bad. And that's it's subjective and it's relative. If morality comes from God and he can just declare things are different one day versus the next, then and if this God is capricious like that, then the morality is subjective, not objective. And so if you want to believe that it comes from the God, then that's fine. But that doesn't in any sense make these moral facts or make these moral claims facts. It doesn't make them true. They're just completely subjective by nature.
Subjective to who?
To God in this case.
Yeah, and so that if that's true, like that's fine, because if there is a God and he is the ultimate like rule maker, then like I see no issue with that. The issue is if I arbitrarily say the standard for goodness is human well-being, then I have declared that in no less arbitrary a way than you have by saying God is the standard. And so there's no such thing as I'm wrong and you're right in this argument. People use this to pretend that it does work that way, because then they say, well, if there's no God, then you can't say blank is correct. But if God says that
blank is now all of a sudden fine when we all think it's wrong, then the religious person has to be committed to saying to agreeing, I guess. So there's no.
Okay. Curious. I watch your lives and I get a fair amount of entertainment seeing you go back and forth with people who relatively take my position. But I've noticed that, like, I'll say it flat out, like, why aren't you roasting me?
Because you don't sound like you're arguing in bad faith, and you didn't come up here to. The number one thing, people like really get surprised every now and then. I'm like, wow, Planet Peterson was totally chill. You know, I guess I have a reputation or whatever. I only get that way with people that are completely sanctimonious, with people who just they think their shit doesn't stink, you know, and who just come out the gate just being obnoxious. And I also, from time to time, it started pretty early with those guys from before, because they were up here saying people that think that just because you have an argument that proves something is just so incredibly annoying to me. So I clown around with them, and we all saw that happen.
But in those times where you're provoked by people with ill manners is when I've seen you at your most voracious with bringing out you pull out all the stops, man, and you bring up all these arguments, and that's the time when I want to join the debate the most, and because you pull out all the stops, and like it's no holds bar for you bringing out all the arguments, and. But you're saying like that's not your actual true argumentation form, and you're like you don't really believe all that stuff. You're just kind of like being a wise ass yourself.
Well, what I was mainly trying to say is you reap what you sow. So, you know, if you come up here and you're arguing in good faith, you're not trying to do gotchas, you're waiting your turn, you're not being sanctimonious, then I don't have any reason to be. That would delegitimize any point that I'm trying to make. But I will match energies.